Intuition's pretty dry, pretty straightforward. It doesn't get into the of things, and it doesn't go into, well, I have to do what they say or they won't like me. That is not your intuition. Your intuition would get curious. It would say, okay, there seems to be an opportunity here of understanding what would help them, and I can decide whether I'm available for that or not. Well, hi. Thank you for joining me here at Intuition, your success compass. I am sitting in front of this gorgeous window with the sun just baking on me because it has been a true New England winter, and any amount of vitamin D or warmth I can get, no matter how bad the lighting may seem, according to experts in the field, don't care. It's warm. Today was podcast recording day. As promised, this episode is going to be on love, relationships, intuition. Are you listening? Are you overthinking? Are you instinct thinking? What are you listening to? Are you listening to your knowing, your intuitive self? You listening to your brain? Which side of your brain? Are you listening to the left side that's always going to find fault with things? You're listening to your right side that has your wisdom and your guidance and discernment and action? There's a lot of areas and places that you could be listening to or not listening to. But I promise you, if you're human, you've probably ignored your gut and ended up in a relationship, whether it was romantic, a friendship, a work environment, or a volunteer gig, something where you ended up in a place that felt like an emotional escape room. I know I have. I absolutely have. And I will never do one of those escape rooms because I don't like that feeling of feeling trapped. I don't feel trapped anywhere in this universe. I'm not putting myself in a situation where it feels like that. But I have been in a relationship, a friendship, where it definitely felt like that all the time, and I ignored it. I ignored it constantly. I made excuses for this person that were next level, and I feel kind of bad towards my spiritual practice because I would say, well, I have to accept who they are. Like, isn't that what we do? Isn't that the kind thing? And my late husband used to say to me all the time, I can tell that you think she's a friend, but she's not a friend. And I would point out the kind gestures, the things that she would do. And then it wasn't until after he passed, and it was a kind of a funny moment, not at the time, but in retrospect, it was very funny to me. When I was asking for support, and I had supported her in some pretty difficult situations in her life, and I had asked for some support, and she said, no, point blank, no. Now, what became funny afterwards is I'm like, wow, she's got great boundaries. Maybe I should learn something about that episode coming up on boundaries. But it wasn't that. It was that she was not available. And maybe she didn't have the bandwidth. I don't really care. My intuition was telling me to not put as much energy into it. My late husband was telling me, and I still ignored it. I still wholeheartedly ignored it. I was there. We were doing things together. And it's just the part of who I am that I love. And in that, I see good in every person I meet. And it's the part of me that has been utterly frustrating because I will give I would give way too many chances. And I wonder if you're similar, because if you're someone with a lot of empathy, by the way, we're not using that as an excuse. I'm just saying, if you're someone with a lot of empathy, we can often give excuses to others' behaviors instead of seeing who they truly are because they're presenting themselves over and over again. And you know the saying, Maya Angelou, people believe people for who they show themselves to be the first time. I'm better. I'm probably at the fifth time, but that's okay. I believe that for my heart and the level of empathy that I feel, it would feel more awful to me to not look for brilliance in others. It would just feel awful. I've tried it. It does. So we are no longer what I would consider friends, but I certainly still wish the best for her and every area of her life. But had I listened to my gut on that, it wouldn't have been another loss that I went through after my late husband passed and the dog passed and the kid moved out. Then people drop off the face of the earth when a partner croaks. But if you listen to yourself and you develop these relationships in a heartfelt and a very secure and honest way, like really being willing to trust your gut, but also allow your brain to be there so that you're willing to see that, no, these are not the people that I will call on or able to call on, or that I necessarily want to be there for them either. When we're using truthfulness, you don't end up in a situation where you're sitting by yourself without support. So I fully take responsibility for the times that I ignored my intuition and therefore did not end up with a supportive network because I was giving too much and not receiving anything. So when I needed to receive, they didn't know how to do it. They weren't that level. So your gut knows. I promise you, your gut knows. But your saboteurs will talk. They will give all kinds of reasons why you shouldn't say that about a person or why you're reading the situation wrong. I mean, I happen to have previously, I have rewired my neural pathway, but I had an avoider saboteur that was number one. So I would just avoid having the conversations. I don't need them. I'm fine. So depending on the common saboteurs that show up in relationships, and we all have these at some level. They may just not be impacting your everyday anymore. Once you work on your neural pathways, I can help with that. So the pleaser would say things like, if I say what I need, they won't love me. If I don't constantly give, they're going to leave me. If I don't like the way they're acting, they're going to say it's me anyway. That might be narcissism. Pleasers and narcissists, unfortunately, tend to line up together. But if you have a pleaser within you, if your pleaser saboteur is highly active, you're a lovely, lovely person. Every saboteur has a strength side to it. So the pleasers tend to be very giving, nurturing, loving people. And that, yes, gets taken advantage of and then ends up becoming its own self-fulfilling prophecy like most of our saboteur behaviors do. So if you feel like you can't say what it is you need, maybe you don't know just yet. Maybe you need to do a little bit of self-reflection. But if you feel like you can't say what's needed, you may be activated in the pleaser. So you may need to practice not saying yes immediately. You may want to have some space between your responses to people. If your hyper-rational is in charge, you may be like, feelings? Let's put that on a spreadsheet because feelings are unnecessary. We don't even need to discuss that. But hyper-rational people are very detail-oriented, and it's often been those that lean more in the hyper-rational area that I depend on for that kind of a balancing. Like my partner in the relationship I'm in now is very hyper-rational. But you know what? He's really good at identifying, much like my late husband, only I've learned to listen in this relationship. He's very good at identifying that other person is either playing a game, not being truthful, or has characteristics that are not serving our relationship. So that's really good. I don't lean that way to the hyper-rational, so it's helpful. It's very helpful. So in that way, in my relationships, I've learned to know myself so well that I'm also able to see other people's gifts and characteristics so that I can best serve and be in this relationship, but also not dance with those that I don't line up with. Okay. So if you are someone who is hyper vigilant, you may be like, oh, I just can't. Their behaviors annoy me, and you're listing everything that doesn't align with you. And that can lean you in an isolation. It can lead you to isolation. It can be difficult to be in a relationship with someone who's always keeping track of your behaviors because let's face it, we're pretty flexible as humans. We need to move in and out of emotions. Now, your judge may say to you, you always pick the wrong person. You don't know how to choose relationships. You're terrible at partnerships. You don't know how to do this. I see a lot of people saying, you just have to accept me for who I am because this is my wiring. And I want to call total bunk on that because while there may be some true developmental delays or difference in wirings, if you know differently, you can do differently. To me, that's the differentiator, to be a little redundant. If you say, well, I'm just direct with people and they have to accept it. No, no. You can work on that because you already recognize that the behavior in which you're displaying may not line up, may not be good in relationships. Do not want anyone masking. I don't want anyone being who they aren't. However, if you say to me, you're just going to have to take how I speak and this is the way I am, peace out, sauerkraut. No, I don't. I actually don't have to do that because it's not okay. Because respect and common sense and interactions and listening and expanding, like me learning from Mike to be a little bit more hyper rational, to be a little bit more rational, not hyper rational, about relationships is helpful. But that's just how I am, get over it, is rude. So I would like to ask you to take a short moment of calm with me right now. We're going to take a couple breaths, and I would like you to recall a relationship situation, something that happened maybe in the last couple weeks. Okay, let's not go too far back and let's not dig into a difficult childhood memory or anything. Let's take a couple breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Can we do another one? In through the nose, out through the mouth. Let's throw a lucky number 3 on there. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Good. Good. So allow a relationship situation or memory to come to mind. Good. Now, in that memory, I would like you to feel your whole body or have a sense of, if that feeling thing isn't for you, go, okay, fine. Have a sense of where in your body is this landing. Okay. Okay. So with that situation, does this feel supportive? Does it feel like higher energy? Like almost pleasing energy? Or does it feel heavy? Does it feel like, ooh, that's not great? Good. So regardless of how that felt, you now have an installed barometer. And if it didn't click in the first time, fabulous. Just try this another time when you're not worried about when I'm going to come back and ask you to do something else, because sometimes the brain will take over and just be worried about, okay, what's she going to ask me next? So do that practice maybe while you're driving a car. Just don't close your eyes, or taking a walk. So you now have a barometer installed in you somewhere that will allow you to use that as your guide to be able to tell when you feel that moment to take a pause, to take a breath, to push your feet into the floor, squeeze your butt cheeks, do something physical that brings you into your body. You can rub your fingers together. You can rub your hands together. Hands on the knees, on your thighs, actually works really well for grounding. Do something that will allow you to explore that feeling a little bit more. Because you know what? Your intuition, your sage, your wisdom, it doesn't panic. It doesn't bring drama. Intuition's pretty dry, pretty straightforward. It doesn't get into the of things, and it doesn't go into, well, I have to do what they say or they won't like me. That is not your intuition. Your intuition would get curious. It would say, okay, there seems to be an opportunity here of understanding what would help them. And I can decide whether I'm available for that or not. So in this barometer that you've created, you can also feel the opposite. Okay. So if you felt a light energy when you thought of a relationship interaction, well, now take a moment and feel one of like a less than interaction. Like in previous episode where I shared that someone said I was too rough or too sharp. Now I've heard that many times in my life from family decades ago. So it obviously had a little bit of a trigger for me. But in the moment, I said to her, I hear you, and yet I had to do what I did. You know, would you be mad at me if I pulled you out from in front of from a bus? Like, common sense here. But I felt into that later on in order to do my discernment around, did I do something wrong, or is there further clarification we need here? So if you have a barometer of lightness, then think about a situation where it wasn't so great and feel where that is in your body, or perceive it. Some people will just have an awareness that, okay, when it's in a negative and not supportive place, my head, I feel it in my head. Like I have a knowing or an awareness that I need to come to my head. And when something feels pleasing or lit up or lovely, I have a light energy. And I just have an awareness of my belly. So then you start to build a dictionary of intuition. You start to build these skill sets. So someone might be talking to you and they're sharing with you, and maybe they're love bombing you a little bit. Let's say it's a first date and they're love bombing you a little bit. You will, if you develop this skill, you'll be able to feel it in your body, of kind of like a BS detector. You'll be able to feel what's genuine about this, or should I pay attention more? Your intuition is going to tell you if this is a yay or a nay. Now, your saboteurs may lead you to believe that you have to go on that second date, or you must call them back, or reflect that you had a good time even if you didn't. You do not. You do not. You are in no obligation to do that in this scenario. But a way to be present and healthy and whole in relationships is to know thyself, is to know how you feel and what you know to be true. I was having a conversation with someone last week, and I feel like we've all, if you've been in a relationship, you truly love the person, you experience this, where you start to have moments of fear that this good thing is going to go away. It's just natural. It's the survival part of our brain. It's saying that you need to be cautious, be aware. And I said to her, I think I still feel like it's the same outcome. You need to be so good with yourself that should that person decide that they're no longer in relationship with you, or they no longer want to be in relationship with you, that besides some sadness, obviously, and some grief, you're good. Like, you're good with who you are. I know with everything I have that if each of us did this, we would not have wars and fighting and, such differences of opinion. We could have differences of opinion without having arguments. So get to really know that feeling within yourself. And you will have to practice this. Practice it several times. Maybe even in the moment. If say you're out to dinner with people and you're not the one doing the talking right there, practice this. Go around the table, feel. If I was in a friendship with this person, do I feel light or do I feel heavier? Start to really trust what you're getting, and your left brain won't be in charge as much because you'll be strengthening and fueling that right brain where your intuition is wired, right about here. So again, the wisdom sage isn't going to panic. It's going to ask, what's the opportunity here? So if we go to the first date situation, what's the opportunity? Well, the opportunity could be to show great clarity that it's been an evening. I'm grateful to have met you, which can be very true because now you have more data. If this isn't going to work or not, you have more data about what type of person or what personality that you would like to be interacting with. So they don't have to know that. It's about that. But you can say, thank you. It's been an evening. Nice to have met you. And I am so aware of myself that I'm aware that this is not going to work. I wish you well. When I was dating, granted, I didn't do much of it because I used my spidey senses to figure out who, but I said, I love meeting people. I want to go into it with that energy. And there were a couple that I talked to, never actually went out with because I practiced this. I said to them, no, it's not going to fit because I put certain things in my dating profile that you ignored. And it's that blend of brain, knowing, intelligence, and intuition that leads to very easy decision making. So there's an opportunity to learn, to grow, to expand. I don't believe everything's a gift, but there's an opportunity always to expand your knowledge. So if you feel, another thing that's thrown around out there a lot is a trigger. Well, I firmly believe that if we don't have triggers, we can't be triggered. So if you're feeling triggered, get freaking excited. Get excited about that. It's because you can be like, that totally tripped something off in me. Let me figure out what that is. You're not doing it for the other person. You may not even be doing it for the benefit of future relationships. You're doing it for yourself. Okay. So if I feel triggered, I take a pause. Who do I take a pause? Even in conversations with my partner, there have been a couple times where stuff have come up and I will say to him, I'm taking a moment. I will be back. And I might just take that moment right there, right then, take some breaths and be like, hang on. I have to move what just came up from a previous experience out of the way so that I can have this conversation with you right now. And only on one occasion in 6 years did I have to say, I'm going for a drive. Because from the beginning, I said to him, I will be so aware when I'm bringing BS. And if I see it in the moment, I'm going to pause whatever we're talking about. And I'll be back, but I'm going to pause. And it's worked. It's worked really well. And that's because he's amazing as well. But because this is what I brought to the relationship, because in my marriage, we just didn't talk about anything. And my avoider loved that. right? I could just go into problem solving and stuff. We don't have to have conversations about these hard things. And that's not what we do here. So if you feel a trigger, you have an opportunity to be like, that's a trigger. I don't want to have triggers. I don't want to have my brain be in charge of my emotions and to send me into a panic or a reaction. Then you have to clean up later. Okay. So same thing. Push your toes into the floor, clench your butt cheeks, rub your fingers together, take a breath, use your words kindly. And by doing that, your relationships, not only with others, but with yourself, will begin to be more respectful. It will help you to know that you don't have to clean anything up. I have always said, I don't lie because I'm not going to remember it. I know that about myself. I am not your details girl. You need a full picture. You need a system to be created. That's me. I can do that. Your detail-oriented stuff, those are not the gifts this girl got in this lifetime. So if you're reacting to something, but you want to be responding to something, you have to become more aware of who you are and how you're wired, and to not have those triggers anymore. It's possible. No matter the background, the relationships you've been in before, I have seen such amazing healing, growing, expansion through my clients from what we would consider horrific relationship experiences, work, family, parents. I'm going to make that separate from family because there's a whole other layer there. Intimate relationships, friendships, coworkers, volunteer, community members. I have seen such there, loving shifts that happen when you start looking for relationships to be a blend of using your intuition, trusting your gut, and recognizing the sabotaging behaviors that all of our brains have. I would love for you to think of a relationship where you've been letting your sabotaging behavior and your saboteurs, and we'll put a link down for the saboteur assessment. It's free. You won't be spammed. You don't get on anybody's list by taking this, but has such fabulous information. When you reduce those and they're no longer steering you in this lifetime, your relationships will become more honest with yourself, with others, more loving, more patient, more giving and receiving, and you can trust your intuition more, so to save you stinking time. Because although I love people, I am not someone that needs hundreds of friends. I don't even care how many followers I have on social media. Can you believe that? I want deep, connective, hilarious, adventure-bound sharing in the challenging and in the joyful times, and relationships with longevity. And that comes from having that same relationship with self. So think of one where you've been letting your saboteurs steer the ship and get in the muck of it instead of showing up in sage and in wisdom. Check out my Mindset Breakthrough program. It comes up at various times during the year, small group setting, 10 people max, because I can help you to shift those neural pathways as well. You have intuition, you have the capability to remove your triggers, and you have absolutely the wiring to have self-command and accountability. Didn't talk about that, but that's huge in relationships. And I want that for you. And once you know how your saboteurs are conditioned to respond, you can start loving them too, so they quiet down. What an amazing world this will be when everybody recognizes, oh, yeah, I've got some patterns and I am reducing them to the point where I have self-surety, I have great boundaries, and I know how to be in loving relationship. Be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. I appreciate the sunshine, and I wish you all the best. I'll see you in the next episode. Cool. Hey, if this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who could use this message. If you have a moment, leaving a review will help more people find this podcast. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time, your energy, and your presence in this universe. Have a fantastic day and more. I'll see you in the next episode.